Hello and welcome this March 26th, 2022. It is a Saturday and welcome yet again to another episode of Misfits of the Galaxy, a vlog series where I kind of ramble on for a good 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes a half an hour sometimes, about content for a upcoming campaign I want to run for my fellow podcast members of the Isle of Misfit Roles. If you haven't heard of our podcast before, we're a bunch of ne'er-do-wells who have been kind of forced together to try to save the world from an impending darkness. The world is the world of Vertes, a campaign setting developed by our wonderful Dungeon Master Mike. I really suggest that you give it a try. I'll put a link down below. Additionally, we are transitioning over to Twitch livestream every Tuesday, normally starting about, I'd say, 9 Eastern Standard Time till about 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. Uh, Sometimes we start a little early. Sometimes we linger a little later. I'll put a link to that down below if you want to see this ugly mug and my fellow players react in real time to the suspenseful drama of the campaign. You're more than welcome. And so now I'm just going to jump right into it. When it comes to this Misfits of the Galaxy space meets sorcery campaign setting I intend on running, I've been borrowing a lot of content from Dark Matter, a campaign setting that was kickstarted from. It used to be the middle finger of Vecna. Now it's the Mage Hand Press. I'll put links down to them below. They're not a sponsor or anything, but I like their content, and you should probably check them out. So I've used a lot of their content, and I was trying to figure out what to discuss today. Whether I want to discuss more races, whether I want to discuss more magic, whatever. And I was a little pressed for time, unfortunately, so I decided, oh, you know what I haven't done yet? I haven't discussed what I'm going to be doing with classes. So this is my first episode about classes and multi-classing. And just to get that second one right out of the way, yes, I'm allowing multi-classing in this campaign. I know it's an optional rule, but most people use it anyways in their settings, and I see no reason why not to do it here. Especially considering I'm a big fan of characters that grow organically as the story progresses. While the player characters push the story forward in the narrative, they also are changed and develop because of it. And I like it when characters develop in interesting and unusual ways, be it the diva, the musical diva that turns into a bounty hunter, the wizard that becomes a pirate king, or the barbarian that decides that wielding a cannon is a lot more fun than a greatsword. These are all wonderful concepts, in my opinion, and bring a lot of fun to the table. And they are often more easily achieved by multi-classing your character. So with that said, when it comes to classes, everything from the player's handbook is going to be welcome at the table. There's going to be a few new subclasses, more campaign specific in nature. Additionally, the Blood Hunter, as well as the Artificer, will also be welcome at the table. Although what I'm about to discuss might make people who are leaning towards those concepts rethink what they want to play. In addition to that, there's a one campaign specific class that's going to be introduced, as well as a few other classes that I thought were really fun to add to the setting. And since a lot of the content for Dark Matter also includes content for these, because they are also made by Mage Hand Press. The first one, specifically for Dark Matter, is the Gadgeteer, which I'll be honest, it overlaps significantly with the Artificer to the point where it's quite possible that that when they developed the Gadgeteer, they had been looking at a old version of I guess the early beta version of the Artificer, while they were in the process of constructing it. The ones that you're always finding on on the Wizards of the Coast website, all the goodies, that is all the playtest material and all that. It looks very similar, although it's missing spells. So I was really tempted to say, okay, well maybe I can transition the Artificer subclasses into this Gadgeteer class, but with the absence of spells on the class itself, it makes it well, it makes it difficult, considering uh, part of the advantage of the Artificer subclasses is gaining new and interesting spells to work with. So I don't think I'm going to go into too many more details about the Gadgeteer tonight. Just it exists. It's more focused on the magitech aspect of things, where it's magic that's so unique that it replicates technology that you'd normally find in most other sci-fi settings. Everything from holographic illusions to the creating magical AIs. And I think it fits the setting quite well, and it'd be a lot of fun to have at the table. Additionally, another product that was produced by Mage Hand Press that hasn't come out yet, but was kickstarted, and I received a early PDF copy of, and I printed it. Is this guy right here? Valdis's Spire of Secrets. It is a basic. It is an expansion where it's a whole bunch of content for like characters, be it spells, classes, subclasses, feats, even new types of familiars and equipment. I really like a lot of the content in it. I've been reading it along with the Dark Matter rulebook, and there's a few dark subclasses that are available in the Dark Matter core in the campaign setting that are for the classes that are introduced here in Valdis. So that's why I'm going to probably introduce it. As for those subclasses, we have, or I should say classes, we have the Alchemist, the Captain, the Craftsman, the Gunslinger, the Investigator, the Martyr, what else is there? The Necromancer, the Warden, the War Mage, and the Witch. So you got yourself another 10 new classes to work with here, which can be quite daunting. But there's a fair bit of overlap between them and some of the core classes, especially some of the subclasses that Wizard of the Coast has recently been introducing. But at the same time, I think some of them are really cool. Like the Alchemist, for example, is your traditional mad scientist using bombs, elixirs, and other crazy inventions to achieve their goals. They have limited magic. It reminds me an awful lot of the Artificer, only I guess the best they don't produce magical items the same way infusions work at all. They can brew potions. Some of them can even become your a Victor von Frankenstein, a Victor Frankenstein ripoff, if they really want to be, if they want to suturing together a construct that follows them around and obeys their orders. Or they could be like a madman who's trying to harness the power of electricity, running around with a Tesla cannon. That's up to them. I think it's a lot of fun. It reminds me an awful lot of the Alchemist from the Pathfinder rule set, particularly the most recent iteration thereof. And I think with all the sorts of crazy stuff that magitech technology that is in the fringes in the verse, in the Misfits of the Galaxy setting, it's a nice addition to it. I might go into details in a different podcast episode about more details about the Alchemist if one of the players voices an interest or someone else does. So if any of these jump out to you, feel free to tell me, and I'll see about making a video about it. So the captain, it reminds me of the warlord of 4th edition D&D. They are all about making, helping their teammates, making, barking orders, and giving advantages to people who choose to follow said orders. Additionally, they have a cohort, a follower that comes around with them to aid them in combat, which I thought was a real cool addition because honestly, I find that in the current iteration of D&D up to this point, the lack of companions is disappointing. I understand that some DMs are utterly aggravated by the idea of having multiple pets in a campaign because it can bog down combat and everything else. But I love them, to be honest, because especially if it's someone who has a person. That it's not just an animal that is an automaton with no personality. Animals can have amazing personalities. Some of my favorite memories are of rangers with animal companions with very unique but some people just it's just an extra stat block. So there are some people who are just like that. So I would love to see people playing with followers and cohorts and all that sort of stuff. And for those people, those cohorts and followers to have very unique personalities and their own goals that they're trying to achieve, and the tension that can create if the goals of the player characters contradict those of their followers. What will happen next? With the captain, I can see that kind of happening, and I think that would be really interesting. The craftsman, this is, I'll be honest, this is what I wanted from the artificer to begin with. It is they have no magic. No magical spells. They're all about building objects and devices and all sorts of odds and ends, be they mundane or magical. They have all these different mechanics for what sort of craftsman guild are you from? You could be a weaponsmith, you could be an armorsmith, you could be a bow or fletcher, you could be you could be a goldsmith for even, or maybe you make magical maybe you craft just wondrous magical items. That is your ability. You can craft these magical everyone in D&D can craft them now according to the rules, but you can craft them with minimum cost. Additionally, they are very sturdy and very tough and intelligent. They're D10 hit points. They can pretty much wear they wield all weapons and armor. It's a fighter without an extra. It's like a fighter without an extra attack. Instead, they're focusing on learning how to build better weapons and armor. I like it. I like it a lot. Some people might disagree with me, and they're more than entitled to it. But especially in a setting where Magitech is supposed to be this very prevalent and all over the place, I can see these guys being there cranking out these generic spell pistols or spell wands and all the sort of magical items that when you go into a store, because in this setting some of these magical items will be for sale at actual stores, you can actually look around and go, oh cool, I want this spell pistol, how much is it? And it's it was clearly crafted by a craftsman, because you would need to have at least a basic understanding of the intricacies of arcana to properly construct that. But you wouldn't necessarily need to be a wizard. Anyways, I'm rambling. Onward. The gunslinger. This is very much, when I look at it, very derivative of the gunslinger from Critical Role. This particular class seems to be more of a labor of love than anything else. It definitely in my opinion, replaces the fighter subclass. So if somebody wants to be wielding like got pistols, rifles, the whole 9 yards, this would be strongly the class I recommend, especially if you want to like dual wield a pair of like revolvers, shooting like a maniac, or even if you want to go John Wick, I suppose. Although like a monk that's way of the gun would be pretty cool, I suppose, as well. Um, Investigator. An investigator is interesting in the sense that it's not a blood hunter in the sense that they have taken on some sort of curse to hunt monsters or anything. Investigator can be anything from like a bounty hunter to a detective to somebody who like your you could easily be your Sherlock Holmes, or you could be your Van Helsing, or you could go in a different direction entirely and be like a priest who performs exorcisms. This is somebody who spends most of their time hunting monsters and investigating crimes, and it fits very much in the same vein as the Blood Hunter. So there might be a lot of, I guess, overlap between the two, although the Investigator is less combat heavy. It's more tactics and strategy rather than up close and personal, right? A investigator is very likely to hide on a rooftop with a spell rifle, waiting for a werewolf to show up closer to dawn, and like shooting them from like the shadows rather than like confronting the werewolf up close and personal with a silver blade, like a blood hunter might do. Let's see. Onward. The Martyr. The Martyr is, I guess, more a ritualistic version of divine worship, involving sacrifice. It's a hit point heavy class because you end up spending your hit points on a whole lot of different abilities and power effects going off. Think of it as a paladin who hurts themselves to use their divine powers. Not that I would not that I recommend that. In fact, I strongly discourage anyone from hurting themselves. And if they are seeking to do that, I'd suggest you seek professional help. The next one is actually, commenting on the Martyr, it probably doesn't fit the setting of Misfits of the Galaxy too well unless the character is coming from a primitive backwater world, the same sort of worlds that you'd normally find barbarians coming from. In fact, it might fit well in a barbaric culture. Maybe the orcs or some other similar culture might adopt that sort of ideology. The Necromancer is well, it's a mob heavy class. If you don't know what that is, or minion heavy, it is the Necromancer of your dreams. It's not the the school of necromancy that a wizard takes on. Rather, this is a arcane caster that has his minion mob with him of skeletons, zombies, ghouls, you name it, following them around, obeying. This, at first, you might think this might not fit it well in the setting, but just because it's a necromancer doesn't necessarily mean it's not a mad scientist who's learned how to use like some sort of nanotechnology to control victims of a necrophage virus. It could easily be a doctor who steals corpses and puts like cybernetics into them to turn them into automatons after life. Or it could be your traditional necromancer summoning the dead on a high fantasy, low technology world, only to come to the stark realization that there's a bigger universe out there. These all fit well. And so while it's not necessarily the I guess you'd call it a white hat type of character, you don't necessarily need to play evil with this. Although a lot of the things that Necromancer might end up doing is quite dubious. This is one that if one of the players wants to play around with, they'd have to consult with me and have a really good idea at heart. The Warden is the next one. The Warden is, well, I guess the best description is this is as beefy as it gets. This is it's a warrior, a fighter, I guess a paladin, do things. Someone like that who has given up a lot of their offensive ability for more defensive abilities. They're this like somebody with shield mastery to the point where like they can defend people beside them, or somebody with a pole arm expertise or whatever, where they can stop somebody dead in their tracks. These are the sort of tricks that are standard in the toolkit for the Warden. They are on the front line, and their job is to make sure that no one gets past them, and they're built for that. So if you want to play something big and beefy, the Warden might be the choice for you. They definitely fill that sort of bodyguard role that many criminal organizations have long sought to fill out in the verse, so they definitely fit the setting quite well. The next one is War Mage. War Mage is the master of cantrips, as well as the sword, or the axe, or something similar. They have an array of different cantrips at their disposal, and they have high magical output despite that. If you want to play something similar to a warlock, I guess, but with its own flavoring behind it, the War Mage fits really well. It also fits the setting of dark matter really well, as War Mages are very common amongst like, believe it or not, dwarves and elves, as they utilize intelligence rather than charisma. And you don't have to make a pact with an extraplanar being. And a lot of Magitech devices complement the War Mage's repertoire, if not partially replicated. So they are, because the technology is there, people that can wield those powers will also be there. And finally, the Witch. I really like the Witch. The Witch is we really haven't had a debuffer up to this point in 5th edition. Yeah, you have a few curses available amongst the divine spells. Same with the arcane, and there's a few subclasses that kind of touch on it here and there. I suppose a warlock with their hex, but that's more damage than anything else. The witch is designed to throw out tons of debilitating curses and hexes on your opponents. They're not a high damage dealer. They just make it so that whatever you're fighting is going to be a lot easier to take down, and it's going to have a lot more difficult time of things. They're the sorts that will poison a target, give them exhaustion, cause them to have like disadvantage, cause them to like have Bane style effects where they're rolling a die and subtracting it from the actions they're taking. All these sorts of fun things. And but as I said, their damage capacity isn't really there. Like they can do a little bit, but it's not significant by any stretch of the imagination. They're also the reason I like the Witch is they are accompanied by familiars, and their familiars are very much what Pact of the Chain was trying to do for warlocks, but didn't quite. My apologies, meet their mark. I I've spoken to multiple people over the years since 5th edition came out. Uh, I have yet to see anyone want to play a Pact of the Chain Warlock unless they have a really good idea as to what they want to do with it, like a good character concept. Because the Pact of the Chain Warlock familiar has no more hit points than a standard member of their race or species or monster, whatever you want to call it. And they don't really progress very well as you go up in levels. When they changed the Ranger to the variant and retooled Beastmaster, they really missed out on doing the same for the Warlock Pact of the Chain. But that's my opinion on the matter, and I guess other people might have others, and they're more than entitled to their opinions on this subject. Anyways, that was quite a few. I just wanted to give a brief synopsis on all of them. Just a few lines of detail. If any of my fellow players are interested in any of these new classes or curious about some of the new subclasses that might be coming out for the standard D&D class list, I'm more than happy to answer those questions in an upcoming video for them. But until then, may your D20s always roll critical, and take care, everybody.